Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'll be working on my Norfolk Island Pine forest. This forest has an interesting history, so let's start by going back in time and see how the forest has developed over the years. Today we're looking at Norfolk Island pines. They're commonly sold as a houseplant here, sometimes called the living Christmas tree, the triangle tree. Going to look at my Norfolk Island pines, and we'll talk about pruning them and shaping them. And our goal is to create a miniature tree, a miniature version of a full-size Norfolk Island pine. So the natural form of the tree is a straight upright trunk and a triangular shaped foliage. There are a few variations you'll see in some of the photos, but basically that's the style of a mature tree, is that triangular shape with a straight trunk. So we're going to try and duplicate that in our miniature tree with pruning and shaping. So here I am at the Butterfly Conservatory in Cambridge, Ontario, and we're looking for Norfolk Island pines. Here's the largest Norfolk Island pine that I've ever seen in my life. Here's a shot of the base of the trunk, and we'll pan up and you can check out the bark and the branch structure down low. So some of the techniques we're going to look at today is can we get them to back bud? And the answer is yes, you can. I've done a lot of trunk chops on this tree, and I've gotten them to back bud. They'll do it if you have lots of vigor up top and then you cut them back. I would treat these trees, pruning them, like any coniferous tree. Always leaving some green foliage where you prune them back to. If you prune them back to like just wood, the tree will probably die. Okay, so now we're going to start pruning the tree. So you can see, we'll start at the top, I think. You can see several branches here, and if we want to reduce the height of the tree, we can prune it off to one of these lower branches, a small one here, and it'll take over as the new leader. If we want to keep the height of the tree the same, we would just prune back the foliage closer to the trunk line. So in order to keep these trees from getting too large, we are going to prune the top off the tree. So I'm going to pick it right here. So we're going to go in and prune that off. So that's reduced our overall height of the tree. And then we're going to prune back the new foliage. Okay, we finished pruning our foliage on the trees for today. You can see we're starting to get some bark on the trunks, and the trunks are starting to get a fairly nice thickness. Now you'll see where we've chopped the trunk here. It's not a very nice transition, but on this tree it had a previous trunk chop right here, and it's starting to blend in quite nicely. And also here you can see it's had a major trunk chop and it's blending in nicely. So when you're growing an upright tree, you have to do this. You have to keep reducing the height of them in order to get taper into the trunks. Today we're going to be revisiting my Norfolk Island Pine. This will be the second video on this clump of trees. Since the last video, the trees have grown quite well. They've got a lot of multi-trunks coming up that'll have to be sorted out. So it's time to give them a good pruning, and I think I'll repot them also. Get rid of all this foliage and just keep our single leader growing up here. A cut like this, right now it's on the front of the tree, but we could turn the tree around so the cut's in the back so it's less noticeable. But the important thing is to cut it off. Even if it was on the front of the tree, the scar would heal over eventually. So I'm trying to pick a nice flow line here for pruning right about here. There we go. Now, I'm going to try and root this as a cutting because it's got a nice thick base to it, and it could become a nice tree. So I don't know if they root as cuttings, but we'll try it. These two trees are almost in line with each other. These two trees are in line with each other. So from the front view of this pot, it looks like there's just 3 trees. So we want to fix that so you can see each trunk. There's one apart. Wow. Some really tangled up roots in here. It's going to take a bit of root work to get these back under control. Yeah, they're just not very good. It's going to take quite a bit of pruning to get these in shape. There was one here that last time I pruned a major thick root off at 90 degrees, and it grew a lot of fine root hairs around it. So, you know, whenever you get a new species of tree that you're not familiar with, it's best to be cautious at first, and then as you see how the tree reacts to pruning, you can do a little more every year as your confidence builds and you know how the tree reacts to the pruning. Like that. See what happens. So we're left with pretty meager root systems, but if the trees survive, we'll have a good radial root base underway. I've got my drainage screens in place, so we're going to put a layer of soil on the bottom. Because we don't have many roots on these trees, we're going to plant them fairly deep in the pot and then mound the soil up around the trees. So now we have to arrange them. So I'm going to arrange them tallest to smallest. The tallest should be the thickest and the smallest should be the skinniest. It's not quite the case in these trees. We've got our tallest is a little skinnier than our second tallest, and our shortest is a little bit fatter. So we may rearrange these. We'll make the fatter one on this side, and we'll take this tallest, skinniest one and put it in this order. So we want our tallest trees in the front, and it gives kind of a forced perspective to the planting. We have 5 trees, so we want to arrange them so we can see all the trunks from the front. We want to give them all their own space in the pot for the roots to grow. We don't want them crowded together too much. That may come later, that we move them in towards each other a little more. Let's give it a water now. There we go. I think the roots will grow really well in this nice loose soil. This soil is again just half perlite and half turfus. All ingredients are sieved to remove the fine particles, and it's mixed together in about a 50-50 ratio. There we go. My last operation is to place some stones around the trees, which holds them in place until the roots get established in the soil. I've got the forest back in the plant room. We're going to have to mist these trees a lot, keep them in good light, and hopefully they'll recover. What I did today was a pretty severe operation, both top and bottom pruning. But, you know, the roots are the foundation of the tree. I would never be happy with the bonsai if it had those spaghetti roots underneath. If these trees are ever going to be a bonsai tree, I've got to grow a nice radial root base and get the roots sorted out first, before we even worry about the tops too much. The next trees I'll be updating are my Norfolk Island Pines. In a previous video, I severely root pruned them, replanted them, and it's taken several years before they start growing really well again. Originally, I had 4 trees. 2 of them didn't survive, one here and one back here. They just died. The 2 of the main trees did survive, and they don't have a very big root system yet. You can see how they're kind of, moving around in the pot. This one's a little more secure. And the rest of them are cuttings, and all the cuttings survived pretty well, except there's one that's struggling here. So they're looking really healthy, and I'm happy that at least some of them survived. And I did learn something. I learned how much you can prune the roots, and I learned that you can make cuttings also. I think when you're growing your bonsai, it's really important to know the limits of your trees. And with my Norfolk Island Pines, I certainly found the limits, at least with 2 of them. So now I know how far you can take the trees back, how much you can root prune them before you actually start killing the trees. Today I'll be pruning the top of these trees, and I'll also be repotting it into a new pot. This one's all broken at the back. The second branch, my first division is out here, which is too long, so I'll just take it back to here, like that. I'm going to remove the trees from the pot now, so I'll just come in carefully, rake away the soil, and hopefully these cuttings have roots. I guess we'll find out very soon. It does have roots. It looks like it has a fairly good root system too. It's not coming out very easily. I think the roots are quite long. I'm just kind of pulling up on the tree now. Yeah, I'm thinking these, you can see roots wrapped around the edge of the pot here. So something has grown roots. Wow, look at that. There's the tree at the back, has grown roots all the way around. This one's growing roots. Good Lord. I didn't expect this much root, I can tell you that. Hopefully that'll stay. I might put my little rock there just to hold it in place. And then my next tree, I've got my 3 larger trees that survived the repotting last time here. So this is the next tallest. It could go slightly behind the main tree, and maybe my other one on the other side here. The one tree over here on the edge is pretty close to that other tree. I'm going to move it out just a little bit. That's a little better. You can see that tree a little more to the left there. Okay, I think that's good. It's coming out the drainage holes. I saved all my cuttings here just in case I needed, more trees in the forest. But I don't think I do. I think it's filled out nicely. I don't think I need any of these cuttings. So if I were to plant the cuttings, I would just snip off the lower branches like this. And just plant it in the soil. The pruning of my Norfolk Island pines and the repotting is all done for today. Let's go in and have a close-up look. Today I'll be working on my Norfolk Island Pine forest. The last video on this tree was in spring of this year, and since then they've been growing really well. These trees are often called the triangle tree because on Norfolk Island their natural shape is to grow in a triangle. If you let the trees grow, they'll lose their triangular shape and they'll start to grow really heavy on the top. And you can see that happening with these trees. So you can see the trees up front. They don't really start branching till way up here. The middle trees should start branching about halfway, somewhere about here. So some of these ones, like this one is too low. I can remove that, and I can remove this one. And then the trees at the very back, the first branching starts very close to the soil level. And that gives me a really good force perspective look to the planting when viewed from the front. All right, I think I've finished most of the pruning. I'll come up front and have a look at the overall arrangement of the trees. I'm out front having a look at the forest now. And I noticed that the trees on this side, they're kind of pushed out. And that's because the branches were growing in against the other trunks. And it was kind of forcing them to lean over on an angle. So try and get that trunk vertical like that. That looks vertical. This one's on a bit of an angle too, so it can use a bit of correcting. Maybe like that. There's one back here that's a little crooked. I can move it over like that. That one's a little more stubborn. The rest aren't too bad. I'm going to have a look at it from the front now. I'm looking at the forest from the front, and maybe I've gone a little too far. I'll adjust this one over just a bit. And I think that's got it. I like the arrangement. I've got, you know, those two trees on this side are very close together. I've got kind of unequal spacing between all the trees. It doesn't look like a pre-planned planting. It looks very natural, and I think once it gets moss and, you know, a bit of landscaping on it, it'll look really good. And as the trees grow and mature more too. As with any clip and grow project, you have to do the grow part, which I did, and then you do the clip part. And you can see I took a lot off today, reducing the trees down to the minimum, and now I'll let them recover and grow in again. We're back to present day now, and the forest grew really well over the summer, and I never got to prune it in fall, so today will be its fall pruning in the middle of winter. All the vigor in these Norfolk Island pines goes to the apex of the tree, so you can see up top here you get some mature branches growing in, and the branches down low stay quite small and weak. So it's important on these Norfolk Island pines to balance the vigor, reducing the top branches back and letting the bottom ones to grow. By continually pruning the top back harder and letting the bottom grow more, you'll slowly build up a balance of vigor in the tree. All these canals that connect all the roots to the branches, they'll develop, and eventually the tree will grow more evenly. I've read so many articles and seen so many videos of Norfolk Island pines that say you can't prune them, you can't turn them into a bonsai, they're unsuitable, and I've been growing these for just over 5 years now, and I really like them as a bonsai. I think they grow and react just like any other tree, and I think eventually they'll turn into something really, really nice. I'm hoping anyway. I'm really happy with the styling of the forest. I think it has a really calming effect. It looks, I don't know, for a tropical type tree, one that you can keep indoors in the winter, it gives me a real spruce type feel. And yeah, I think it's been a really a good species for me, and I've enjoyed growing them. I'm going to start the pruning now, and I've got to determine the height of the tallest tree, which is this tree right here. And that'll determine the height of all the others in the planting. So you can see that, you know, right now the apex is up here, but I can prune the height back to a branch anywhere along here. So I can, you know, I can't chop it back to here, but I want to keep some green growth on, but I could prune it right back to here or leave it a little taller. So I'll want to find some suitable branches, and I'm thinking somewhere about here, keeping this branch as the leader, which is fairly slim, whereas this one is quite thick over here and it's quite vigorous up top. So I think that's a good place. So that's where I'll start. I'm going to prune the leader off right here. All right, here I go. Like that. Now I'll need to prune the apex to keep it more compact. So I'll take this little branch that's overlapping the apex off here from another tree. Now I can see my apex. So here's my apex. So I'm going to prune it back shorter. So to here and to here. Like that. So there is the apex of my tree. There's a long branch here I'll need to prune back. So I'll prune it back to here. And there. So that's got the apex of that tree in fairly good shape. I just brought this tree up from the basement yesterday, so it was kept in really cool conditions. So it grew really vigorously over the summer. I brought it in, it got a nice cool period, hopefully a nice rest period, and now I'm pruning it back and warming it up, so it should start to grow really well. So I'm going to reduce this apex. I've got a good branch right back here. So off the top goes like that. I'll reduce my apex back, just cutting the little branches back. So this is my apex, and on each side of it I have some tall, strong
branches coming up, so they'll need pruning back too. So I'll look for a more horizontal branch I can prune them back to. Here's the one branch, and I could prune it back to here, but then I'd have this inside one growing up, which is quite strong. So I'm going to take it right back to here, like that, taking a lot off the top. I'll do the same for the one coming up the side here. I'll prune it off to here, and I'll prune the shoots back to make it more compact, like that. And that's got the apex of that tree in check. This planting started off as a group of trees. They were in a pot about this diameter from Canadian Tire. It was a big box store. And I kind of grew them together in the pot for a while. And then I separated them into a kind of a forest. And yeah, so they've been growing quite well. But they were all small when I got them. They were probably like, this would be the biggest one here, this kind of size here. So, you know, very skinny trunks and not very high. So I thought, you know, the price was right. I think I paid maybe $5.99 for them or something. So yeah, I'm glad I did start some. I was a little skeptical. You know, everything you read on them says, oh, you can't prune them, you can't turn them into bonsai. They're lousy material for bonsai. And so far, my experience has been the opposite. So far, I've found them to be wonderful. I'm going to continue with the pruning now, and I'll do this tree next. And this one should also be shorter than the main tree. So you kind of get that asymmetrical profile to the forest. So again, I'm looking for somewhere where I can reduce the leader. There's a good leader growing off to the side here. So I'm going to take that whole top leader off here. So here I go. Just like that. And then I'll prune up the apex, making it more compact. Trying to prune between the needles, like that. So that's got that apex to a good height and in check. Now there is a tall branch behind it here that needs pruning back. This one right here. So I'm looking for a horizontal branch. There's one here, so I could take it right back to here. Like that. That keeps my apex more compact. I'll keep working on the heights of the trees, so this one's got to be even shorter, so I'll want to reduce. I think I'll keep this as my leader. It's the most vertical shoot. And this one's more of a horizontal one, so I'll take that one off to here. Like that. I've got two nice horizontal branches coming off of it. And then I'll take my leader down. It's got to be shorter than this one. So I think I'll have to take it right back to about here. Maybe I'll keep this one, so I'll take it back to here. There's a branch behind here. And then I can take the apex off. Like that. So that reduces the height down, kind of. It's not much of a triangular form. I might have to reduce this one further. I'll see. I think I will. I think it's just too high, so I'm looking for somewhere to reduce it back to. I may have to. I think I'll use this other branch as a leader instead, because this one's just too tall. So I'll take that one off, like that. And now I've got this leader here. So I can take this back, this one back. Yeah, so that's got it at a nice height now, using this as my new leader, and this will remain as a branch. I've got some trees in the back that are getting tall. I don't want these trees taller than the ones out front, so I'll be reducing those back next. So here's a look at the side view. So these should be the tallest, and for force perspective you want them to get shorter as the planting goes deeper. So maybe align something like this. So I'll take this apex off right here. Like that. There's a vertical branch growing here I need to reduce. I'll take that off like that. So now you can see how from the side view we've got the tallest tree and they're getting shorter as you go back. So I can take the apex off this one. This one needs reducing. So this will be my leader. This will be a branch, so I'll take the vertical part off that branch and I'll reduce my leader back to here. Like that. Bring my tips back like that. So that's got all the heights in check. Let's look at the side view again. Yeah, so from the side view it's looking quite good. Tallest trees in the front, diminishes back to shorter trees. From the front view, I've got my triangular, asymmetrical triangular form to the silhouette of the forest. So the only remaining thing is to reduce all the trees. They're all starting to overlap each other with these long branches. So I need to prune them all back more compact. These trees are called the triangle tree, and that's because they grow in a conical form in nature. So I want to duplicate that style in these trees, kind of creating a Norfolk Island Pine to look like a Norfolk Island Pine. So I'll be reducing all these branches back. They're all kind of too long and interfering with each other to create that triangle silhouette for each tree. All right, I'll start working on the trees to get that conical form or triangular form. I'll have to take this one back, even though it's got a branch here. It's just too long, so I'll take it back a bit. And this one, just the tips need to come off. All right, let's get the other branches in check here. Get that long one pruned off there, like that. A long one here. Interfering with the other trees. So it's getting there. I'm getting, space around each tree. So it's fairly easy to prune these. You just got to keep in mind that triangular form or conical form. Some of the trees, I'll show you a view of these trees. They're so close together that the branches on the inside just naturally interfere with each other. So I'll show you what I'm going to do there. I'm looking down from the top now, and you can see this tree and this tree, they're very close together, and these branches on the inside between the two trees, they're kind of overlapping each other, and they don't need to be there. So I'm going to remove some of the branches that are just overlapping. It's okay to have the branches overlap kind of like these two. They'll grow around the tree, but you don't want two branches directly facing each other in the middle of a forest. Otherwise it just gets cluttered. And you also have to look for branches growing in towards the center of the tree. I'll move those two. Like that one. Here's a look at the cutting room floor today. Quite a bit of foliage taken off, but the trees have enough on it that they'll recover quite quickly. Here's a look at the forest after the pruning. I'll rotate it around so you can see it from all angles. So here we go. And back to the front. It was really nice looking back over the past 5 years to see how this forest has been developing. And I'm hoping that in 5 years from now we can take a look back and see how it's developed in 10 years. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.